Welcome back to my podcast where we dive deep into family dynamics, mindfulness, and the path to healing after major life changes. I'm Christopher Meyer, a Houston divorce lawyer, and today we are tackling an incredibly important topic, navigating midlife divorce and finding hope beyond it. My guest today is Lynn, the author of Midlife Reset, a powerful book that offers guidance and encouragement for those facing divorce later in life. It's currently available on Amazon. Lynn has helped countless individuals rebuild their lives by sharing strategies for financial stability, emotional resilience, and finding new opportunities post-divorce. Lynn, welcome to my podcast. Before we dive in, can you share a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to write Midlife Reset?
Well, first of all, thanks, Christopher, for having me. I came to you from a field of education. You know, I spent about 22 years in the education field. I taught. I was a campus leader, so I was a principal, and then I retired from the district office. And then from there, I went to work in the financial services, and so I helped families plan for their retirement. And back in a few years ago, I fell in love with mortgage. I wanted to help people getting into their home, getting into their investment properties, and then help them navigate through a lot of the different situation when people are going through divorce. And having gone through a couple myself, basically with the second one, which was in 2018, it was a rising from the ashes, for lack of a better way to explain it. So I was financially devastated. It took me a long while to get things reacclimated, to reinvent myself, to get back into the workforce, and to be able to be where I am today. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. The reason why I wrote this book was that I wish that there was someone there to provide me with a lot of this information when I was going through my journey. And so the impetus for this book is to be solely just that, is to serve as a good friend, to be able to share with you some of the things. Hey, you need to make sure that you take a look at this X, Y, and Z, and then have a team to be on your side to help support you, because each of us have our own expertise, right? You definitely need an attorney to help you navigate through the process. You need a financial planner to help you understand things. You need a realtor to help you sell a home or acquire a home, and you need a mortgage professional to help you finance that situation. So, you know, we work better in teams. And so that is why I wrote the book, is to help other people.
Okay, no, thank you very much. And before I kind of really go into my questions, I just kind of wanted to share with you that I have lots of clients going through divorces. Some of it involves family violence, a lot of like maybe emotional abuse. It can be traumatic it's traumatic for most people, and I'm very mindful and empathetic about that. But sometimes, you know, I get that client who wants to talk to me about their divorce, about kind of the emotional aspect. And really, I mean, I'm the divorce lawyer. I've heard it all, trust me. And I probably know exactly what to say to help them. But at the same time, I mean, really, at the end of the day, my job is to help them figure out the kid stuff, like, you know, custody and child support, things like that, and then property division. That's really it. Children and property division. All the emotional stuff, I mean, if they want to talk about their divorce, it's fine. I feel I'm qualified to help them. But again, if they want to talk about the emotional aspect, the trauma, what's things that are not really relevant to what the judge needs to know, and it's, you know, the phone call starts going long, you know, for ethical reasons, have to remind them I'm billing them for this conversation, and I have twice the pay of a therapist, but half the training. So it's better to maybe, you know, I'll tell them, hey, if you know, I understand this is traumatic, but it might be more appropriate for you to talk to somebody like a coach or, you know, a therapist. Somebody can. And the thing about a coach like you versus a therapist, you know, a therapist, they'll talk to you, and they'll probably have great advice, but maybe you, as a coach, you can actually put a team together, which is really exciting. So let's talk real brief about your book. I'm going to share, and it's going to be on my website, a link to it. So if anybody would like to check that out, but here's the Amazon page, Midlife Reset: Creating Financial Stability After Midlife Divorce. It's available on Kindle and paperback. Has it's quite a great description, and I encourage people to take a look at that. But I want to ask you some questions about this, okay?
Sure.
So your book, Midlife Reset, it's an empowering guide for those going through a midlife divorce. What was the inspiration behind writing it?
You know, when you are embarking the divorce process in your 40s and in your 50s, you have about 30 or 40 years under your belt. And so there's a lot of changes that occurred. You may be sharing, there's a lot of financial sharing practices that has happened within your life. And so having to regain that and to sort of rebalance yourself is definitely something that you have to consider. And it's one of those things where you're going to be knocked off of kilter for a little bit. And so it's a grounding process that I think is so important for those of us who have gone through during this stage of our lives.
Okay. You mentioned divorce in your 50s. I can only imagine how daunting that must be. What are some of the most common fears or concerns people might face at that stage?
So the fear of, aside from the emotional fear of, oh my goodness, I'm not good enough, or oh my gosh, how am I going to start over? What am I going to do? My goodness, for those who have not been working, how am I going to take care of myself and my children, depending on the age of the kids, right? And so all of that, it literally uh, rips you into shred because you all of a sudden you don't know what's coming next, and that is very nerve-wracking for all of us who've gone through uh, this part.
Okay. In your book, you emphasize financial recovery. So what first steps should someone take to regain financial stability and rebuild their credit, for example?
So, for example, one of the things that you have to do is really take a good look at what you have, right? And so,
Hmm.
take stock of your financial situation, taking a look at it at your finances from asset to liabilities to do you know all of there is to know? If you are part of the decision making process, financial decision process in that family, then you have a generally a good handle of the financial health. But if you're not, then that becomes something that you really need to get a good handle on. And attorneys can help you with this. Financial advisors can help you ask the right questions, and at the same time, take a look at your scores. If your spouse have been the person who have gotten credit and financed the house and financed the cars and all of that stuff, then you have to take stock of where you are as an individual in the financial world, right, per se. And so just have like a good understanding of where you're standing at that moment.
Okay. You also mentioned, well, that's the financial toll, but you also mentioned the emotional toll of divorce, and I can only imagine that can be overwhelming. What strategies do you recommend for managing grief, stress, and self-doubt during this process?
I really encourage people to talk to someone, right? Whether talking to a trusted friend or finding a professional. For me personally, it was easier for me to find a professional to talk to because, with people that sometimes they may or may not be able to stay neutral. In some of the information that you share with them, right? So finding a professional to talk to, it could be, and if you are in a situation where you don't have the financial capabilities to pay for a counselor or a therapist or a coach, then talk to church members, right? So different church members or whatever religion that you are part of, their support group in that capacity. Talk to someone, helping them have them help you understand what's going on, because it is normal. It is a cycle. Every one of us who's gone through the divorce share similarities of the ups and downs and the feelings that we get. So you're not alone, right? So this is not a new phenomenon. It is something that unfortunately many of us have had to face. And so talk to people. That is the most important thing.
Okay. Especially for people who have been married for decades, I can imagine it would be difficult or a struggle to regain their identity after the divorce. What advice could you give to them? Give a sense of self.
Go back and take that inventory. What am I good at? What makes me me? Right? I mean, if you love cooking, you love singing, or you do things that you enjoy, you're still that person with just some minor adjustment, right? And so you're no longer be able to have all the nice things that you want, or be able to have a certain standard of living, right? It's going to take a minute for you to get resituated, but look at you, and you have all the skills, all the special qualities that makes you unique to begin with. And so don't forget, a lot of times we get inundated with all the things that is happening to us that we don't slow down and take a look at ourselves in the mirror and say, hey, I am super awesome. This is just a bump in the road. Big bump, nevertheless, is a bump in the road, and we can do this.
Okay. I guess this question would be really maybe for people who are married for a long time and out of the workforce, but re-entering the workforce after years of marriage. I can imagine, I can only empathize at how intimidating it might be. So what are some actionable steps for finding new job opportunities and developing marketable skills?
So one of the things is take a look at some of your skill set, right? You've had a life prior to that marriage, and so do things that you enjoy. If you are a crafty person, looking into opportunities where you can showcase your creativity. If you are a former, CPA, or a former bookkeeper, or a former teacher, or a former something, you've had those skills prior to that. And if you don't, let's just say you got married right after high school, and you haven't had a chance to develop a bunch of different work-related skill set, right? Labor skill set, then look into what you're good at. What is your passion? And then take a class. There's so many skills that you can learn online these days that it doesn't take years for you to acquire those skills. It takes, weeks or even, a few hours for you to learn how to do certain things, and so, do what you love, right? Do what you're naturally good at so that you can excel in that area.
Yes, it's interesting you say that because, there's a saying about the city of New York. If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Kind of means that it's a tough place, but if you can make it happen, then you're good. You can survive anywhere. Meaning it's a difficult place to be successful. I say the opposite about Houston is if you can't make it in Houston, then you can't make it anywhere. And the reason I say that is because there's so many opportunities here, and if you for some reason can't find an opportunity, then you can create your own opportunity. And sometimes people, they come to me, they're smart, they're going through a divorce, they've been out of the workforce, but they're smart people. They just maybe don't have the resume or the job history. So I tell them, hey, maybe hang up your own shingle, start an LLC, and be your own boss. So there's, again, if you can't find an opportunity, then you can create an opportunity. So it's interesting you say that.
Yep. And for sure, nowadays, there's Meetup, right? Meetup has so many different opportunities for you to meet people based on a common interest, right? So if you want to go out there and network with people, if you're into financial stuff or if
Hmm.
you're into gardening, I mean, there's plenty of things that you can do. If you have a knack for gardening, there's garden places, I know in our area, there's Enchanted Garden. There's so many things that you can do there. You can teach somebody, you can do what you do here is have a recording, a podcast, and talk about the wonderful things that you already know innately all this time, right? And so capitalize on the skills that you already have, and trust me, you do have them. You just have to slow down for a second to kind of get reacquainted with them.
No, I agree. Okay, so l- long-term financial independence is a major concern. Well, what advice do you have for creating a strong retirement plan and managing assets post-divorce?
Absolutely. So this is where you really need to talk to a financial advisor, right? Here is something that lingered from my days during that time is that if you have young children, when I say young, I mean under 18. The first thing that I want to make sure that you do is to get a life insurance policy, a term life, right? Because if anything happens to you, your children are taken care of, and it doesn't cost that much, right? It's probably a meal or two that you're going to have to give up if financial situation is tight in your life. But definitely do that. That's the start, right? And then just work and save, right? Just live within the means, right? Just like everything else, take a look at what you have. You may have an old 401k that has been sitting around that you haven't looked at in a long time, right? And so taking, again, go back to taking stocks of what you already have, and just start from the bottom. Understand that you're not going to be in the top of your game for a short while, right? And you're going to have to start from where you are and then continue to build. And it is possible to build. I mean, I'm 55, and this happens when I was turning 50, and so it's very doable. I am very blessed with the ability to do things, to earn the income, and to have a son who's about to go to Texas A&M.
All right.
And so, it's very doable. I mean, I worked really hard, but it is very doable.
Okay. Okay. Support systems can play a crucial role in healing. And you did mention the team and putting a team together. So what are some ways to build a strong network of people who are your team who truly uplift and guide you through this transition?
So there's two things, that there's two sides to this team. You need to have the practical team. The practical teams are the professionals such as yourself, the attorney,
Hmm.
the financial advisor, the realtors. Those are people who help you navigate the life aspect of things, right? And then there's the emotional team, because if you're not emotionally sound, more than likely that impacts on how you are performing in the workforce, right? And so you do need to have that, whether it's a pastor, whether if anyone that you feel comfortable with opening up with and talk to, and you may have a friend or two that you can and share information with, or make new friends. A lot of times, for those of us who've been married for a very long time, and in terms of decades, then you and your former spouse may have shared friends, and those are harder for you to confide in. But you know make new ones, right? I mean, we all have to start somewhere and learn to open up. Not easy, but learn to open up. And then there's also divorce support groups, people who are going through the process with you, or during or about the same time as you are, and be support to one another. The important thing that I want to make sure that we're aware is that, you know, um, self-pity is a very dangerous, is a,
Hmm.
what do you call it, a slipping slope, right?
Yeah.
And so don't spend too much time in it, right? Pick it up and move on, right? It happened, and so what? Now let's move forward, because the more you spend time dwelling on, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened to me, then you are being detained and you're being delayed from becoming the better you. And
Uh,
so honor those feelings, but move forward.
No, I 100% agree with that. I see people on both sides of the spectrum. I see people who get out of a bad situation and they just blossom, do great things, very successful. And I've seen the other side where they just never really overcome that trauma, you know. I mean, some, for example, some people after a divorce, that's when their time really happens for them. That's when they become maybe successful at work because they don't have that. They're not attached to that maybe that spouse or that relationship or that dynamic that had always kind of been putting them down and maybe making them feel bad about themselves. So now they can kind of regain their self-worth. And then I've seen on the opposite other end of the very extreme situations where maybe someone, they never overcame that loss and they just have trouble ever letting go of anything. And I've actually seen where someone is like a clinical hoarder. You know, they just won't let go of anything, and they just collect as many things as they want as they can. It's very serious. But okay, so my next question is dynamics. Divorce can also have an impact on family dynamics, especially with the adult children. What advice do you have for maintaining healthy relationships with family members during this time?
So, I can only speak from my own personal experiences, right? And for me is not bad mouthing your spouse. I think that's very important, right? I
Hmm.
think especially with adult children, they're old enough to be able to see and observe and probably can internalize some of the things that may have caused the divorce, right? And so you focus on being the great parent. You focus on developing or continue to develop a great relationship with your children, but don't point fingers at the other person when you're with your children. I think that's very important because that when we do that, it causes the kids to feel like they have to pick and choose. Do I love
Hmm.
mom more? Do I love dad more? Oh my gosh, mom doesn't like dad or dad doesn't like mom, that kind of thing. So alleviate that, right? Because these children are the people that you put on this earth, right? You brought them here. And so we want to look out for their best interests. We want them to be able to have healthy relationships with both you and their other parent, right? And so make sure that you stay neutral with that. It is very hard. And it's very hard. Every now and then I stumble and I fall, but then I smile and I said, I'm not supposed to say that. Right. And so forgive me for bringing that in, that it has nothing to do with you, and just refocus. Right. And so understand that you're human, and then there's some tendencies. Just make sure that you're cognizant of it and address it when it arises. And so just stay positive with them.
No, I think that's wonderful advice. And let me kind of interject a little bit with some lawyer comments. Yeah, during these divorces, during a divorce, during a custody dispute, many courts issue these things called mutual injunctions, like things you're not supposed to do or not allowed to do during the divorce. And these injunctions can even become permanent after the divorce. Most common injunctions are: do not disturb the peace of the child. Don't,
Mm-hmm.
just because mom and dad are fighting doesn't mean the child needs to be part of that. Leave them out of it. Also, no disparaging remarks about the other parent within, earshot of the child. So if you're, don't like your spouse or your ex, whatever, you go talk to your friends and kind of vent a little bit, or about how they were a narcissist or something. That's fine, but don't do it where the child can hear, because they deserve parents who are engaging in healthy co-parenting. And then as they become adults, they'll eventually figure out anyways
Mm-hmm.
on their own, and then make their own decisions. But hopefully, hopefully they would still have a healthy relationship with both parents. Okay, so if you could leave your listeners with one key message of hope and empowerment, what would it be?
You can only go up. Right? From here, you can only go up. There's no other ways to go. So, arm yourself with people to support you, and just start over and one foot in front of the other and just move forward.
I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful. Okay. Well, Lynn, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom today. Divorce can feel like an ending, but as you have shown, it can also be the part of something truly transformative. For those listening, Midlife Reset is available now on Amazon. If you're facing this transition, know that you're not alone. There is hope, support, and a path forward. If you go to my website, chrismeyerlawfirm.com, you'll see a link to her book, which will take you to Amazon. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast for more discussions on family, resilience, and finding your way forward. Until next time, take care and stay strong. And thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.